Get the appropriate level of light going on here. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Roach Wiggle, May 16th, 2024. I got to go ahead and like my own stream. Very important detail. Doesn't say that it's gone live quite yet. That's okay. All right. Liked it. Very important to do that, etc., etc. Hello, people who are here already. Alan and LC. We've had there's been quite the week here. It's been awful. Things are hopefully only going to get better now that they've gotten kind of worse. So, hello, everybody. We've got a couple more people trickling in. Not too many people speaking up in the chat just yet. I'm going to start rambling about my week here. Anthony Green, welcome. I actually prepared a sticky note to bring everybody up to speed on what's going on. We've got first note I have here is shipping chaos. So I've been fighting through auction orders, as everybody knows. It's a process. Hello, Jojo. Fighting through auction orders. It is a process. And yesterday, or maybe even the night before, my internet went out. And I just sort of figured, it's just a server, whatever side thing, everything's fine. But it was not. So this morning I woke up and was going to print my labels and whatnot. Couldn't get any internet access. Tried to use my phone as a hotspot, and that worked just fine. I've been able to do emails and some other stuff and actually make labels. But the problem is I could not for the life of me get my printer to, it's like an old, 2013 printer to connect to the computer without my Wi-Fi network being up. Let's say hello to Elliot Hunsinger, Double Z, Loki, and Richard. Welcome. As you get to hear me rant about my awful week, 2-ish weeks. Let's see. Anyways, where was I going with this? Anyways, so the other day, or maybe it was yesterday morning, a lot of tree work going on out here, not DT, just private individuals cutting trees down. And apparently somebody smacked into, they probably still had like the lift up or something, part of the tree cutting apparatus. They smacked into the, the Ethernet wire, whatever it is that goes from the pole out front to the house. And apparently it was dangling. So I had to sit with Wow this morning and them say, did you unplug and replug the router? Yes. Did you try plugging the router directly into the wall instead of into a power strip? Yep. Okay, I did that. All right. Try unplugging it for 3 minutes and then plugging it back in again. Okay, that didn't work. All right, we're going to send a representative out to you. Jeez, I cannot get the light level balanced today. Maybe I should just leave that up. It's probably fine. So it was a whole nightmare. I think around 3 p.m. today, we finally just not getting the right light. Around 3 p.m. today, we got it all fixed up. And so I was able to get some FedEx stuff out, but all my other stuff going to be till next week, just how it is. But I went through everything. I even, on Prime, I overnight ordered a coax cable because I looked at my coax cable and noticed it was frayed either from one of the rabbits or from nausea in the past. I thought, maybe this is the issue. So I replaced that. It was not the issue. So it was, again, that they had bodged the pole or something while they were doing work. So anyway, so that's what's been up with labels and stuff. So I'm way behind on that. Next week, plan on taking a lot of time, kind of forced to take a lot of time to play catch up on everything. And that's just how it's going to be. And this is how it always is after the auction. But hoping by early mid-June, everything's going to be settled and taken care of. And so it's just a busy time. And it's very stressful. I have not been sleeping well either. I don't know what it is, but they feel like there's been more sirens going off in the area in the last year and a half, 2 years than in all the time that I've lived here before combined. So kind of sucks. So all right, shipping chaos. We've got that point taken out of. We've gone over that point, which is once that main wire gets cut, you're screwed. Yeah, he said that it had been like dislodged and with such force that it whipped around and wrapped itself around the pole. So that's interesting. They must have hit it pretty hard. Nazig is supposedly coming out of heat. That's the other point I have here. That's been another huge thing, is having to keep the dogs separated and give them both their own time outside instead of just throwing them out together. So we got that wrapping up. I'm thinking by next Tuesday she's going to be done. That will have been a month since her cycle started, and I can't believe how fast the month has gone. I feel like I've just been kind of waiting for everything to end. So that's good. The dogs can reunite. Victor's been depressed, so it's going to be good to get them back together. And fruit fly. That'll be less stress for everybody when that happens. Elsie asked about the website overhaul. Nothing new. Mr. Chris has had some. I don't know if Chris wants me to share this. Just a minor a surgery, and has not been able to work on stuff. So that's fine. It just is what it is. I'm grateful that he is taking time to do anything at all, and on his own time and whatnot. So. Nothing new on that front. The difficulty is going to be finding time to do that, pending some other things I need to talk about, which is the next big one and the most stressful one, and the one that's been getting on my nerves the most is the move situation stuff. So I contacted the township that the property is on to ask, and I figured 7.5 acres, we can do all this, that, and the other thing. And sort of sent them a full detail of the plans. We're going to need this much space. We want to do this with the building here. And I got an email back saying basically go kick rocks. So that's been very stressful because we were basically banking on moving to that property. And now we're trying to figure out every single loophole, technicality, etc., that we can exploit basically to try and make this happen, because house prices and interest rates are through the roof right now. This was our golden goose, and now it seems like there's a good chance that it might not happen, which is just atrocious. It's I'm not even gonna say it sucks. It's atrocious. This is the absolute worst thing that could happen in this situation. I'm gonna take a moment while I'm on that subject. Let me just say hi. We've got Devin's here, Joseph Tavir, Mike Diamond, Duke and Enzo the Iggies. Hello. So welcome everybody to just a bad stream, to a very negative Nancy stream. So again, the property situation, the main thing is they don't want commercial activity on the property unless it is directly tied to the dwelling. So building the building any degree of feet away from the main structure is a huge no-no and not allowed in this situation for commercial purposes. Now, if I were to go ahead and say, yes, this is my roach hobby and my bug hobby, and I make no money off of this, then they give you 2 big thumbs up and you get to go throw up your gigantic building, whatever. It is the commercial aspect, even though there are online sales, that is that's the holdup here. Because of the size of the property, I guess it's the commercial, but also because it's live things, even though they're this class 1 live thing, you can have as many as you want. I could have thousands, millions, but the second you say it's commercial purposes and not just for personal use or hobby use or whatever, they take issue. So that's very obnoxious. The workaround here we need to look into is, well, what if we attach the bug building to the house, to the garage, through the whatever? Then you got a little bit of something else. Then they say, it's as long as it's attached to the dwelling, you're good to go. So I'm going to send another inquiry and say, all right, well, if I can't build it 200 feet away. Can I attach it to the house? And can we do that here and do all this? Really long corridor for legality. Yes, a person. That's kind of, that's the kind of thing we may be looking at here. So, we got that sort of thing that we're dealing with. The other thing was all the farm stuff. 7.5 acres. By the laws, you can't have more than a certain number of chickens and ducks and all this stuff, and it's very stingy for farm stuff. We could only have 4 goats, 27 chickens, rabbits, ducks, whatever else in any combination, and anything more than that, you are over the ordinance, and you're looking more into the high intensity agriculture thing, which is, again, from my perspective, ridiculous, because I'm pretty much at those limits on my half an acre property in Livonia, and it's totally fine here, but it's not in an actual 7.5 acre lot. So, so then the thing we kind of look at there is we go to them and we say, well, okay, well, I came at them saying I was doing it more from a commercial perspective, thinking that, hey, when I have extra goats, when I have extra quails, when I have extra dogs, whatever, I'll just sell them. And so I think the way I have to approach them again is to say, hey, we're not looking to become we don't have to become an actual farm making income off of farming stuff. But my question is, when you have goats, if you want to continue making milk, which is what you do with goats other than eat them, I would argue that dairy goats are the basic purpose for goats over meat. You have to breed them to get them to start producing milk again. And if you have 2 goats, which you should not ever have just one goat, you're supposed to have them in pairs at least, and you breed one of them, you're going to end up with anywhere from another 1 to 3 goats. And suddenly you are out of your legal limits here. So my question to them then is, what do I do? Am I expected to just bolt gun this baby goat the second it comes out of the womb? Am I allowed to sell it for, what am I allowed to do in these situations? Because it's not even just that these are, oh, well, this could happen. It's this does happen. This is guaranteed within these uses to happen. And so I'm trying to see if I can get them to say, oh, well, yeah, we just don't want an industrial operation. You can sell a couple of this and that. And then I also asked with dogs too, because we no matter how much space, we cannot be zoned for a kennel. But we're not. I got to look and see. I think it says something like you can have up to 3 dogs for breeding purposes, but no more than that. So then the workaround there is, of course, well, we're breeding this one dog with this other dog this year, and the rest of the dogs are all livestock guardian dogs out working in the field, and those are working dogs or pet dogs or farm dogs or what have you. They're pet dogs, so we can have millions of them if we want to, because they're considered a type 1 animal, and we are not running an actual kennel operation here. So I'm less concerned about the livestock side of things and more concerned about the bug building type stuff. I had brought up to them, hey, we want to buy, or my parents might purchase, or I said we might purchase the property just to the north of that, which has a house on it. And I don't think they realize that property and the adjacent property are owned by the same person. And so it's a 7.5 plus a 10-acre parcel, putting it over the 10-acre minimum for commercial agriculture, whatever, that we would be eyeballing and looking into, which would involve putting the building, etc. They had mentioned, I said, can we combine these 2 parcels? And they said, well, you'd have to demolish the house on the one if you wanted to combine the parcels. And even if you did that, we don't think you'd meet the setback requirements for this other stuff. So I'm hoping to get them another email, and well, I'm going to get them another email and say, hey, it's our understanding that these 2 properties are owned by the same person, and one of the properties has a house on it and the other property does not. So how do we go about? So are we then allowed, if we were to purchase this, do we get to combine them since there's no dwelling on the other one? And because of that, do we meet the setback requirements for your feed lot? Which is, again, this is absolutely, it's ludicrous for what we're doing. We're never going to have more than 50, 60 birds full time. Any smaller stuff, chicks and stuff, are just going to be, they would be sold or eaten. And again, with the goats and stuff, I have no intention of running a gigantic herd of goats. So it's just these are so many hoops to jump through, and it almost makes me feel like, maybe they saw Roach Crossing as the business name and they've got kind of an agenda here. So I'm going to send another email and clarify some of these things and ask, for clarification. It is their job to clarify these things. Last ditch effort, as Angela says, well, why don't we go in, or why don't I go in and I'll talk to somebody in person and see, because maybe there's some information that is not being taken in on their end here. So things could be really, really crappy. Things could be awful because then we have to sell 2 properties this fall, and we have to line up a new one, and it may not have a structure on it. It may not have this and that. It may be a substantial distance away. All this just nightmare stuff that sort of just popped up in the last since basically Friday. So yeah, we're gonna see what happens. They may say, oh yeah, if you attach it to the main dwelling, you're good. Do whatever you want. And then we say, okay, we can work with that at the bare minimum. We can do this. Just a lot of things that could go horribly wrong, and it's very stressful because we had plans, we had an agenda, we had all this stuff going on, and all of a sudden this is going to be much more difficult than we originally anticipated. But I'm also aware that anything that's worth having is worth fighting for. And so we're gonna see what all we can do, what all we can manage in this situation. Still cannot get the right light. Maybe if I tilt this up. No, it just I appeared disheveled. I did not sleep well last night. And again, really long corridor. This is how you get those ridiculous things. This is really exactly how that happens. I'm thinking like, with the stuff that we'd need, would I then make it a garage, basically, just an additional garage? It's one of those things where it's like, just the bloat of some of this just makes things so impractical. And I understand there's probably a reason for this in the first place, but the legislature tends to restrict and never give those things back, as opposed to opening up such things. In Livonia, it's still in the books that goldenrod and milkweed are not allowed to be grown on your property. So that's in the books, but also a bunch of other stuff. I think there's like bladder campion and hairy alyssum, and there's a bunch of noxious weeds that everybody who has a lawn has popping up all over the place, and nobody gets on their case for it. So I like one of those walk through aquarium tunnels, but with roaches. Thank you, a person. It's nice to make light of this. Who's setting all these absolutely insane rules? Again, it's the township. It's just how they are. With this, Chris Snyder had suggested that some of these things about how many animals you can have and what you can do with them may have been put in place to discourage certain groups of people, such as the Amish, from settling or from being in those locations. And I could see that, but I just can't imagine 7.5 acres and you're only allowed to have 4 goats. Like, that's, what if you had Nigerian dwarfs, which are like, or I think it's pygmies are the smaller of the two between Nigerian dwarfs and pygmies. What if you had pygmies where they're smaller than a Labrador retriever? What if you had four pygmy goats on that much space? That's like a whole planet to them. And then you can have somebody who's got like 10 freaking dogs, 10 big old German Shepherd, Cane Corsos, Gompers, just for pets running around, or that one person ruined it for everyone by doing something stupid with animals. That's also very possible, Stephen. So do they not allow for exempt facilities? Well, that's the thing. My town doesn't allow quail. Municipality law is nuts. Yeah, that's they develop these things, and then you can petition for change. You can try to do that. What happened here in Livonia, and I'm curious how it would go over there, is neighbor down the street who's lived here since, I want to say, the 70s or 80s. Her name's Kaya, Polish lady, and her husband. They had and have chickens and a peacock, and they've had roosters, and they got complaints about the rooster, and they ended up winning a court case against the city to keep the rooster because on these size lots, they're zoned for light agriculture, and it says you may raise ducks and poultry and rabbits and blah blah blah, and nowhere in that does it say you can't have a rooster, and there's ordinances on noise, such as like, oh, you can't have an animal, or you cannot have a device that generates a sound at an interval of more than 5 minutes and more frequently than certain amount of time at X decibels or whatever. And so that's where they could get you with something like a rooster or a dog or something like that. But then, you turn around and say like, well, somebody like on their riding mower makes like an hour plus worth of noise over that decibel. Can we like ban that? Or like the weed whacker or the leaf blower, there's a billion different things. And it's the bottom line is, there you argue, I guess, in law is that, and the other thing was they did need to get signatures from the surrounding people, so they didn't have to push the issue. But most people were fine with it. It's just one person who didn't like it or took issue with them for some other reason, and so they got enough signatures, or they got the overwhelming majority of people said, yeah, we don't care, they can have it. But the thing is, when you say you can have chickens, or you can have ducks, or you can have goats, or you can have dogs, or any of these things, there are intrinsic qualities to having those organisms that you cannot say, yes, you can have a dog, full stop. But when we take you to court, you have a dog, but it made too many barking noises. Or, oh, you had a duck, but it quacked, so you can't have it. But so you can argue, these things are intrinsic to owning these things, and my right to own them is clearly laid out here in the ordinance or whatever. So therefore you have a strong case that I'm allowed to have this. Ducks quack, they make noise, dogs bark, I'm allowed to have a dog. This is something that comes with having a dog that is intrinsic to the organism, and therefore you have a strong case, at least in like local courts. So we may go in and we may say, hey, we're not looking to, we're not trying to factory farm. We're not trying to be a full-on farm, but it's like, we want to have enough animals to sell a little bit, but we're not going to go over this. If we had 2 parcels of property, we're not going to have more than 8 goats. We're not going to have more than this or that. And we're not going to have 50 dogs. It's very, it's this sort of thing. And then Angela said, well, people do stuff here and they don't tell anybody, or nobody complains, so nothing ever happens. And it's I'm a prime target for a complaint from somewhere is the problem here, or you get somebody who just gets worked up over something, or who knows. So I would rather the law be on my side than not on my side, as was the case with what happened with the city of Livonia, which has been fine. Again, it's kind of funny that I can have all this stuff in Livonia on half an acre, but then you go out in the country there, and then all of a sudden, oh, nope, can't have that, and you can't have that. So the biggest defense for some things is just say, oh, these are my pets. These aren't farm chickens. These are pet chickens. These aren't farm rabbits. These are pet rabbits. I don't know what you're talking about. Prove otherwise. Prove they're not. How's the internet going to be at the new place? So far from what Angela has had for her internet service and whatnot. It's fine. It's fine. We can always try and get fiber and all that stuff. LC, we got a Roach question. Let's dive into that real quick before I get into a Roach topic really fast here. Oxyhaloadusta likes dry, well-ventilated, warm. They are not very fond of rich foods like dog food, etc. They do like them. It's good to have it available 24/7. But they will get gout and they will be noticeably doing not so well if they are not also offered sugary materials such as fruit jellies or fruits, etc. Again, high ventilation. It's another oxyhalonine, which is the group that contains things like lobster roaches and hissers. So a lot of them appreciate, even more so, oxyhaloa high ventilation. So. And definitely, again, drier, but always with some fruit or vegetable material. The next topic on my sticky note here, this happens maybe once every 4 to 7 years. I think the last time this happened was 2018. Could have been 2017. I think it was 2018. I dropped the roach bin. Who would like to guess what species of roach I dropped? What bin of roaches just absolutely... Just container full to the brim with roaches I dropped not yesterday, the day before. LC, I'm very thankful it was not German roaches. A person says, how many wild phasmids are a good idea for a starting colony? Get one adult female is good enough, but maybe about a dozen if you can get them. Not hissers, Loki. I was not hissers. Fortunately, was not a hissing cockroach species. Any other guesses? German or lobster? No, it was not German, was not lobster. Brown banded. Oh, thank God it was not brown bandits that I dropped. It was not brown bandits. But there's a little bit of dancing going on around there's another contender in all of this that everybody seems to be overlooking. Those ones that infest your parents' house. No. Americana, final answer, yes. I dropped a big hexagonal container of Periplaneta americana from the Tuscaloosa Riverwalk frontage. Colony was probably in the 150 to 300 individual range. Big hexagon container. I was going to put it back on top of something, and it shifted, and it fell, and it hit the ground, and it just shattered. And I was just like, I don't know what to do. I was like, if I had somebody else here, I told both Will, Christian, and Angela, and I think Brandon when they were working here, that if I say code red, I need help stat. But I was alone, and so it hit the ground over by the isopod racks, and it just shattered, and all the substrate just like went back behind the isopod racks, and I just sort of looked at it, and I just thought, all right, I'm screwed. That's what I thought. So I went and got a deli cup, a big deli cup, and I gathered up as many individuals and substrate as I could to keep the genotype, to keep the locality going. And so now, every maybe a couple times a day, I see an American roach running somewhere around the basement, and this sucks. They're gonna stick around. And now it's like, well, if I had any hope of like, oh, we'll just, we'll sell the house with the roaches in it and we'll be fine. Now it's like, no, that's not going to happen. We gotta set up traps and seal holes and do all this, turn on a dehumidifier. We got to do all this stuff now because even if Periplaneta americana are not going to infest, they're going to stick around. They're going to stick around, and that's going to suck. So you should get some like crazy weather stripping on the doors in your new facility. Again, a lot of it's going to be preventative and not having to stack things this high and doing all this stuff. A person says, I'm still seeing Masola nymphs months later. The difference, though, is that it's summer, it's humid, they're going to stick around, and they may do some breeding in that time. Once winter comes, we should be okay. But I want to be out of here before then. So this is one of the worst things that could, thank God it was not Germans. Thank God it was not Germans. This is one of the worst things that could happen at the worst time. At the worst time. There's no sugarcoating it. This is one of the worst things that could happen at the worst time, which adds to the everything sucks overarching theme of the last 10 days. Luch says, my Elliptorina javanica doing incredible with your advice and keeping them warmer. That's good. Somebody had to tell me some good news.